How to overcome the fear of English. English is the global language of communication, and as the world becomes more connected, the ability to speak and understand English has become more important than ever. However, for many people, learning English can feel like an overwhelming challenge. Fear often holds us back. Fear of making mistakes, fear of not being understood, and fear of judgment. If you are someone who has ever felt this way, know that you are not alone. Fear is a natural part of the learning process, and it is something that everyone must face on their journey to fluency. Overcoming the fear of speaking English is not an impossible task. In fact, it is something that you can do with patience, persistence, and the right mindset. The first step in overcoming any fear is acknowledging it. Understand that your fear is not a reflection of your ability or worth. It is simply a part of the process. Once you accept that fear is natural, you can start taking small steps to overcome it. When we think about learning a new language, we often imagine textbooks, grammar rules, vocabulary lists, or long hours of study. But in truth, before any of that, before we even open our mouth to say our first sentence in English, there is something else that appears first, and that is fear. For so many learners around the world, English is not just a subject. It is a mountain, a challenge, a wall that feels too tall to climb. And while some people may pretend that they are not afraid, most of us carry the same fear deep inside. The fear of being wrong, of not understanding, of being laughed at, of sounding strange, of not being good enough. But the truth is simple and powerful. You are not alone, and even more importantly, you don't have to stay afraid. In fact, the fear you feel now can become the fuel for your growth, the spark for your courage, and the beginning of your transformation. Because behind every confident English speaker you've ever seen, whether it's a friend, a teacher, a YouTuber, or a stranger on the street, there was once a version of them that was afraid too. So if you're feeling nervous, or shy, or stuck, or small, that's not the end of your story. That is where your story begins. The fear of speaking English often comes from the fear of making mistakes. We worry about saying the wrong thing, using the wrong words, or having a strong accent. This fear is deep-rooted in the fear of judgment and the belief that if we make a mistake, others will think less of us. But here is the truth. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. Mistakes are an essential part of learning, and they should be embraced, not feared. In fact, making mistakes shows that you are trying, and trying is the most important step toward progress. One of the biggest obstacles to overcoming fear is the mindset we have about ourselves. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good at English or that you will never speak fluently, you will only reinforce your fear. However, if you believe that you are capable of improving and that every small step counts, you will begin to build the confidence you need to move forward. The first step to overcoming fear is to understand it, not to run away from it, not to hide it, not to pretend it doesn't exist, but to sit with it, gently, and listen. Because fear is not your enemy, it's just a signal. It's the part of you that wants to protect you from embarrassment or pain. It's the voice that says, "Don't try, you might fail," because it remembers a time when you did, maybe a moment in school when people laughed at your pronunciation. Maybe a class where you didn't understand and felt lost. Maybe a conversation where someone corrected you in a rude way. And from that moment, your brain began to connect speaking English with danger, with judgment, with shame. But here's something you need to hear. Those moments were real, but they do not define you. You are not your past. You are not that mistake. You are not that memory. You are more than that, stronger, braver, and smarter than you think. So instead of trying to destroy your fear, try something softer. Try making peace with it. Say to yourself, yes, I'm afraid, but I'm also trying. Yes, I've failed before, but I'm still here. Yes, I feel nervous, but I believe in my future, because fear becomes smaller when we stop fighting it and start understanding it. To overcome the fear of English, you must first shift your mindset. Start by changing the way you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, I'm terrible at English, try saying, I am learning, and I will improve with time. This simple shift in language can have a profound effect on your confidence and your willingness to take risks. When you stop focusing on perfection and start embracing progress, you will find that speaking English becomes less intimidating. In addition to changing your inner dialogue, it is important to adopt a growth mindset. A growth mindset is the belief that intelligence and abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication. When you believe that you can improve through effort, you are less likely to be discouraged by setbacks. Each mistake becomes an opportunity to learn, and each challenge becomes a chance to grow. With a growth mindset, fear loses its power over you, and you begin to see learning as an exciting and rewarding journey. Many learners wait for the perfect moment to speak. They wait until they know more words, until they can make perfect grammar, until they feel ready. But the truth is, you don't become confident by waiting. You become confident by doing, even when you don't feel ready at all. Every brave English speaker you know became fluent not because they were fearless, but because they spoke despite their fear. Their hands were shaking, their heart was racing, their sentences were messy, but they spoke anyway. So don't wait for permission. Don't wait for perfection. Speak now. Speak with the English you have today. Say, I'm learning. Please be patient. Say, I don't know the word, but I will try. Say, can you repeat that? These small sentences are not weakness. They are courage in action. Every time you speak, you teach your brain that it's safe. Every time you try, your fear becomes a little smaller. Every time you open your mouth, even if you forget, even if you pause, even if you get stuck, you are practicing bravery. One of the most effective ways to overcome fear is through consistent practice. The more you practice speaking English, the more comfortable you will become. However, this does not mean you have to wait until you feel ready to start speaking. In fact, the best way to get comfortable with speaking English is to start speaking, even if it feels awkward or difficult at first. The more you speak, the more you will realize that making mistakes is not the end of the world. It is simply a part of the process. Start by practicing in low-pressure environments. Find a language exchange partner or a supportive friend who can help you practice speaking without fear of judgment. You can also practice speaking in front of a mirror or record yourself speaking to build your confidence. The goal is not to speak perfectly, but to speak often. With time, you will notice that your fear starts to fade, and your confidence will grow. While we often think that the fear of English comes from other people, teachers, classmates, strangers, the loudest fear usually comes from inside our own minds. That little voice that whispers, "You're not good enough. You'll sound stupid. They'll laugh at you. Why are you even trying?" That voice is the biggest wall between you and your progress. But here's the truth. you can change that voice. You don't have to believe every thought you think. Instead, begin to create a new voice, one that cheers for you, not against you. One that says, it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. One that reminds you, I am not perfect, but I am improving. One that encourages you, today I said one sentence. That's amazing. Tomorrow, I'll say two. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle. Because language learning is not just about words. It's about self-love. And the more you encourage yourself, the more you will grow. As you begin to speak more, you will inevitably make mistakes, and that is perfectly okay. In fact, it is a sign that you are trying, which is exactly what you need to do in order to improve. Instead of fearing mistakes, embrace them. Each mistake is an opportunity to learn and improve. For example, if you use the wrong word or structure a sentence incorrectly, take note of it and try to use the correct form next time. Learning from your mistakes helps you to grow, and each mistake brings you one step closer to fluency. Remember, no one speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. Everyone has moments when they stumble over words or use the wrong expression. The key is to not let these mistakes stop you from speaking. Instead, use them as stepping stones to move forward. Every mistake is a valuable lesson, and with every lesson, you become more confident and capable. One of the biggest reasons people fear English is because they are afraid of making mistakes. But what if we changed our relationship with mistakes? What if instead of seeing them as proof of failure, we saw them as the exact tools we need to improve? Every mistake is a message, a guide, a lesson. It shows you where you need to focus, what to review, what to try again. Every mistake is a stepping stone. The more you make, the more you learn. So stop punishing yourself for being human. No one learned a language perfectly on the first try. Not you, not me, not anyone. So be proud of every wrong word, every confused sentence, every awkward pause, because those are the moments that shape you into a stronger speaker. Another important step in overcoming the fear of English is surrounding yourself with people who support and encourage you. It can be helpful to find a group of people who are also learning English, as they will understand your struggles and can offer guidance and encouragement. You can also seek out a mentor or language tutor who can provide constructive feedback and help you improve. Having a supportive environment where you feel comfortable practicing without fear of judgment will help you take risks and push through your fear. If you don't have access to an in-person support group, you can find online communities where English learners come together to share experiences, practice speaking, and support each other. Social media platforms, language exchange websites, and online forums are great places to connect with other learners and practice your speaking skills in a friendly and supportive environment. Learning English can feel scary, but it feels even harder when you are surrounded by people who judge you, correct you constantly, or laugh at your efforts. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do is to build a support system, people who understand, people who lift you up, people who remind you that your voice matters. Look for teachers who are patient and encouraging. Find language partners who want to grow together. Join communities that celebrate effort, not just accuracy. And if you don't have those people yet, be that person for yourself. Be your own cheerleader. Say well done after every practice session. Write kind words in your notebook. Be the safe space you've always needed, because from that space, confidence will grow. It is important to celebrate every small victory along the way. Learning a new language is not an easy task, and every step forward is an accomplishment. Whether you successfully order food in English, introduce yourself in a conversation, or understand a movie or podcast without subtitles, take a moment to acknowledge your progress. Celebrating small wins helps you to stay motivated and reminds you that you are moving forward, even when the journey feels long. The more you celebrate your progress, the more motivated you will become to continue practicing. Each small victory boosts your confidence and reminds you that you are capable of more than you think. Don't wait for big milestones to celebrate. Every step forward is worth acknowledging. One of the reasons fear stays so long is because we compare ourselves to others. We see someone speaking fluently and we think, "Why am I not like that yet?" But every person has their own path, their own timeline, their own challenges. You don't need to run. You don't need to rush. You only need to move forward, one small step at a time. Some days, you will speak easily. Some days, you will feel stuck. That's okay. That's normal. That's part of growth. Language learning is not a straight line. It's a winding road, full of hills and valleys. So celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Today you understood 5 words. Tomorrow you'll understand 10. One day, you'll speak without fear, not because fear disappeared, but because you became stronger than it. There will be days when learning English feels difficult, when the fear seems overwhelming, and when progress feels slow. On those days, it is important to remember that the journey to fluency is not linear. Some days will be easier than others, but as long as you keep going, you will continue to improve. Even when you feel discouraged, remind yourself of how far you've come. Reflect on the progress you've made and the challenges you've already overcome. The fact that you are still learning, still trying, and still pushing through your fear is proof that you are stronger than you think. Finally, to truly overcome the fear of English, you must believe in yourself. You have the ability to improve and the strength to keep going. Remember, fear is just a feeling. It is not an obstacle that will stop you unless you let it. You are capable of speaking English confidently and fluently, and you deserve to reach your goals. Believe in your ability to grow, and trust that with time and effort, you will become the speaker you've always wanted to be. The most important thing to remember is that you are enough, exactly as you are. You don't need to speak perfectly to communicate effectively. The world needs your voice, your ideas, and your unique perspective, and English is just the tool to help you share it. In conclusion, overcoming the fear of English is a journey that requires patience, practice, and persistence. It is a process that involves shifting your mindset, embracing mistakes, and speaking with confidence, even when you feel afraid. The more you practice and the more you surround yourself with support, the easier it will become to speak English without fear. Remember, you are not alone on this journey, and with every step you take, you are getting closer to the fluent, confident English speaker you want to be. So, take a deep breath. Speak the words that you've been afraid to speak, and trust that each step forward brings you closer to your goal. The fear will not disappear overnight, but you have the power to face it, move through it, and come out stronger on the other side. You can do this. And one day, not far from now, you'll look back and realize, I was scared, but I did it anyway. I doubted myself, but I never stopped. I used to whisper, and now I speak. Because this is not just about learning English. This is about learning to believe in yourself again. And you, my friend, are more ready than you think. So go ahead. Say it. Say it with love. Say it with courage. Say it with joy. Because the world is waiting, not for perfect English, but for your voice.